Hey guys, it's Jen. Welcome back to my channel and welcome back to another video. Today's video is a cook dinner with me, and it is a collaboration with Leanne from Grady's Mom. She has an awesome YouTube channel and I have really become great friends with her over the past year. If you have not checked out her channel, she does grocery hauls every week. She also does shopping hauls and she does great cooking videos. She shows what she packs her husband for lunch every day and also does what's for dinner videos. So if you haven't checked out her channel, I'll leave the information down in the description box below. But if you like my content, you will definitely love hers. The video I'm showing you of hers right now is just a meal prep video that she recently did, and she's showing how to make some egg muffins for breakfast or lunch prep. So I would totally recommend it, and thanks Leanne for collaborating with me today. So this video is sort of like Leanne's What's for Dinner videos, but I'm also doing sort of a cook with me, so I'm actually kind of showing you how I'm making everything as well. So on this particular night, I was going to make some Spanish rice. Now I'll link the original recipe down below. This is an authentic Spanish rice recipe, and it's the recipe that my mom uses. And it always makes really, really good rice, kind of like how you would have it if you ate out at a Mexican restaurant. So with this, I'm actually going to heat up some tamales that I made last month, and I have those in vacuum sealed bags out in the deep freeze. If you guys want to know how to make homemade tamales, I will link that recipe, or I'm sorry, that video down below. It's actually really fun. But essentially what you're going to do with the Spanish rice is just saute it in some oil with tomato and onion, and then you will add some water and different seasonings, chicken bouillon, some cumin, garlic. I'm not sure of all the ingredients because I don't have the recipe in front of me right now, but like I said, I will link it down below. And then you'll just basically simmer this over medium-low heat until the rice is cooked and all the water is absorbed. So for the tamales, these were in the freezer, and so all I did was thaw them out on the counter for a few hours. I'm putting them in a steamer basket in my Instant Pot with about 2 cups of water, and I'm going to go ahead and cook those on high pressure for 12 minutes until they are heated through. While that is cooking, my rice is continuing to cook. You just want to stir it about every 5 minutes, I would say, to make sure that it doesn't stick to the bottom and burn. I'm also making some quesadillas for Connor because he doesn't really care for tamales. And so how I make these is just I spray a nonstick skillet with cooking spray, and I just put some shredded cheese in the middle of a tortilla and brown it on both sides until it is cooked through. So here's a look at the Spanish rice. This also makes great leftovers. You'll have a bunch, so it's good. Leftover, definitely. And the next thing that I'm going to make for a side is some refried beans. So my aunt, who is Mexican, actually taught me to make refried beans like this, kind of semi-homemade. So basically you just put a can of refried beans in a saucepan, add a couple tablespoons of vegetable oil with some garlic and cumin, and stir that up. It will just make them taste so much better than if you took them straight out of the can. All right, so here are the tamales after I steamed them up. Those will just sit in there until we are ready to eat. And here's a look at Adam's plate. I just gave him 2 tamales with salsa verde and some sour cream, some beans and rice with cheese on top, and 1 cheese quesadilla. So this was a great quick dinner for us. All right, so on this night, I'm actually going to be making some lemon bars for dessert along with some chili. So I got this lemon shortbread bar mix at Trader Joe's a while ago, and I haven't used it yet. So the directions say to mix the crust mix with a stick of butter, and I just use my hand mixer because it is easier that way. And so you just want to go ahead and mix that up until all of the flour mixture and the butter is incorporated. I took an 8x8 square pan, sprayed that, lined it with parchment paper, sprayed it again, and then I'm going to press the crust into the pan, and then I will bake that according to the package directions. So before we stick that in the oven, Connor is going to help me poke the crust with a fork, and that's just to make sure that it doesn't puff up too much in the oven. And then we'll bake that at, I believe, 400 degrees for 15 minutes, but don't quote me on that. Let's look and see. Oh, I'm sorry. It's 350 degrees actually for 18 minutes. So while that is cooking, you can go ahead and mix up the filling mixture. This calls for fresh lemon juice, and I had a few lemons on hand, and so I'm just going to use my citrus juicer to squeeze those into a measuring cup to make sure that I have the correct amount. I actually ended up having to add a little bit of bottled lemon juice because I didn't have enough, but that's fine. It still tasted the same. And actually, if you can still find this mix at Trader Joe's, I would totally recommend it. I just bought it as kind of a seasonal item. I don't know if it's still available, but if it is, definitely pick it up. It's really good. So I'm going to go ahead and crack my eggs into a bowl and add the lemon juice. And then it comes with a packet of like sugar and stuff to mix in with that to make the filling for the lemon bars. So you just want to mix that together really well until everything is combined. And then after the crust is partially cooked, you'll pour that mixture over the hot crust and pop it back in the oven. Okay, so this is what the lemon bars look like when they are done. You just want to make sure that they are a little bit firm to the touch. I let them cool in the pan for probably about 20 minutes and then pop them out onto the counter. Since you have some parchment paper under there, it makes them super easy to lift them out of the pan. I'm just putting that on a piece of wax paper to protect the counter. I dusted some powdered sugar over the top, and then I'm just using my knife to cut them into 9 squares. And we're going to have these for dessert after the chili we ate, which I'll show you here in a second. But these turned out really good. Like I said, if you guys can find these, totally get them at Trader Joe's. So the next thing that I'm going to make is some Instant Pot chili. I actually have a separate video on my channel specifically for this recipe, which I can link down below. But I really love making chili in the Instant Pot. It is, to me, so much better. It tastes so much better, and the meat is so much more tender after I've made it this way, since I've had an Instant Pot for over a year now. So if you do not have an Instant Pot, you can totally make this on the stove or in a crock pot. But what I'm going to do is just put some olive oil in the bottom of my insert. I'm going to chop 1 onion up and put that in the insert as well. And then I'll squeeze a couple of cloves of garlic into there. I always get this garlic paste, which I find in the produce section at Walmart. It just is so much easier than chopping garlic. And then I will add 2 pounds of ground beef. So once this is in the Instant Pot, you can go ahead and set it to saute because you want to cook the beef before you add the rest of your ingredients. I'm just going to add some kosher salt and some black pepper, and then I will let that saute until it is browned up. Now, we get our beef from a local farmer, and so I usually don't have to drain our ground beef. Sometimes I get questions on that, but it's usually 90 to 95% lean, and so it doesn't have a lot of grease on it, and so I normally don't drain it. But if you had beef that had a lot of grease, I would recommend draining it. So to the Instant Pot, you can just add your diced tomatoes, your tomato sauce. I added 2 cans of beans, 1 like dark red kidney beans and 1 light red kidney beans. And then I'm just adding some chili powder, some cumin, some garlic powder, and salt and pepper. And then I just keep stirring it and tasting it and seeing what it needs. You might need more salt. You might need more chili powder. Just keep sort of mixing and tasting it until you get it to your desired taste. And I also like to add a couple teaspoons of sugar. With all of the acidity of the tomatoes, I think that really makes a difference in the finished chili. Okay, so once you get the chili seasoned to how you want it, you'll just put the lid on and set it to sealing. And then I just used the chili beans button on the Instant Pot. I think it sets it to 30 minutes on high pressure, which does a great job. And then after it is finished cooking, you can go ahead and let the pressure out. Just make sure that you move it so that the vent is not under your cabinet, because that will hurt your cabinets over time, having that hot steam on them. And it will take about 3 to 4 minutes to let all the pressure out. So once that is completed, here is your finished chili. I usually just scoop a little bit out into a bowl and taste it again to make sure that it tastes fine, and then add salt or pepper or anything that I think it needs. With chili, I like to serve corn muffins, so I'm just using some Jiffy corn muffin mix, and I'm making it according to the package directions. But what I would recommend is adding a little bit of honey to your batter, because I think that adds some sweetness, and I think it just makes it a lot better. So that's the only thing different I do, is add a couple squeezes of honey. But I just like to mix all the wet ingredients up in a mixing bowl, and then go ahead and add the Jiffy corn muffin mix. I just like to whisk it with a fork until everything is combined. I will bake this as corn muffins. I just think that they're easier to eat that way. So I'm going to use some paper muffin tin liners, just put those in the pan, spray them with some nonstick cooking spray, and then add the batter and cook them according to the package directions. We always like to have chili with our cornbread. It's just kind of a tradition, and everyone loves them, and they also make great leftovers warmed up. So this is totally a personal preference, and I don't always do this when I make chili, but tonight I felt like making it with some pasta. So I'm just cooking up some ditalini in some salted boiling water, and I'll just cook that according to the package directions. And then what I'll end up doing is just serving the chili over this in a bowl, excuse me, with some shredded cheese. And my kids are not huge chili fans either, and so if I make some buttered pasta with it, put that on their plate, and then put a little bit of chili on top, they're just more likely to eat it. Adam does not like pasta with his chili. He just likes it plain in a bowl with cheese and crackers. So it's just something that you can consider when you make something like this. Sometimes if your kids aren't wild about like the soup that you're making, they may eat it over pasta. So just something to think about. I'm going to shred up some fresh cheddar cheese. I'm just using a box grater, and I like to shred it on top of some wax paper so that it protects my counter, and it's easier to sort of scoop into a bag if I need to put it in a Ziploc bag. Here is the pasta all cooked up, so I'm going to go ahead and drain that. Here are the corn muffins. They cooked up perfectly in the oven. And then I'm just going to show you my plate that I'm fixing. So I have like a shallow bowl filled with the chili, and then I'll just put about a half a cup of the pasta on top and some shredded cheese. And this was a totally delicious dinner. It also makes really, really good leftovers. I had this several days this week for lunch, and it was really good. So check out that chili Instant Pot recipe that I posted earlier. Okay, so on this night, I'm making pizza stuffed shells, and I actually show you guys how to make this recipe in my last meal prep video, which I'll post a link down below if you're interested in watching that. So I'm just making some salad to go on the side. I have some romaine lettuce, some chopped up cucumbers, and then some of those Parmesan cheese crisps. You can basically find these in any grocery store now. I'm going to put some Olive Garden Italian dressing over that, and I will serve it with the pizza stuffed shells and some breadsticks that I baked up in the oven. Here's a look at Adam's plate. I just gave him 4 of the stuffed shells along with some salad and some breadsticks. So I'll link this recipe down below. It is really, really good, and I would totally recommend making it. Okay, so on this night, we actually cooked up some T-bone steaks. So we like to cook our steaks in the sous vide, and I have a video on that. If you guys are interested, I'll link it down below. But we made some T-bone steaks in the sous vide and then seared them off to finish. I also made some white cheddar macaroni and cheese. This is the Cracker Barrel version. Sorry, my dog is barking if you can hear that. And then I also roasted some asparagus in the oven. So this is a really great dinner. Okay, so on this night, I was making some baked barbecue chicken breast. So these are some chicken breasts that I just marinated in olive oil and some barbecue seasoning for a few days in the refrigerator. I went ahead and baked those off in the oven. I have a roast setting on my convection oven, but I baked them at 400 for about 20 minutes and then added some barbecue sauce over the top and just popped them back in the oven until they were finished. And alongside, I'm going to serve some corn for all of us, and then for me and Adam, I'm going to make some cauliflower cheesy bake. The kids aren't really wild about that, so I'm going to make them some pasta. But for this loaded cheesy cauliflower bake, I've actually made it before on my channel, but it's really, really good. It was actually a recipe that I started making when I was doing keto. But basically, you will roast some cauliflower in butter in the oven, and then the sauce is sour cream and half and half garlic. You put some salt and pepper in there, some bacon bits and some cheese and some green onions, and then stir that all up. Once the cauliflower is cooked, you'll actually stir that into it and then bake it in the oven. It kind of turns out like a cauliflower gratin, or like a cauliflower kind of like a sort of like a cheesy bake. I don't know how to explain it, but it's really good, and it actually works really good as leftovers too. So make sure you check out that recipe. It is really, really good regardless of whether you're doing low carb or not. I always like to shred my own cheese for any recipes like this, so I'm just using that box grater to shred that. And my mom got me these stainless steel mixing bowls for Christmas. I really like them because they have a spout and a handle. I'll link them down below if you guys are interested. They are on Amazon. I'm going to go ahead and stir up the sauce ingredients. And then once the cauliflower is done roasting, you just stir that into the cauliflower, top it with some extra cheese and green onions and bacon bits, and bake it until the cauliflower is tender. This is a look after it comes out of the oven. Here's a look at the barbecue chicken breasts after I brushed them with some barbecue sauce and put them back in the oven. They turned out really good. And then I'm also cooking up some egg noodles for the kids to eat with their dinner, since they are not wild about the cauliflower bake. So alongside, I just heated up some canned corn, and as I'm watching this back, I am adding a ridiculous amount of butter, which is not advised, so I don't really know why I did that, but I added a ton of butter. So you know, add enough butter as you think is appropriate, but I went ahead and covered that back up to let the butter melt. I am slicing up the chicken breast for the kids into thin slices. They are just so much more likely to eat it if it is already cut up than if I put it in a huge chunk on their plate. I get these divided plates from Walmart, and they work super well for dinners. Make sure you look for them at Walmart the next time if you guys have kids. They work really well. So I'm going to put some of the buttered egg noodles on the plate for the kids along with their barbecue chicken, and then I will actually sprinkle them with a little bit of shredded cheese. They seem to like that really well, and then serve that with some corn, and that will be the kids' dinner tonight. So here's a look at Adam's plate. I just gave him some of the barbecue chicken, the cauliflower bake, along with some corn, and then I had a few deviled eggs that I meal prepped, and so that was our dinner tonight. So the next night for dinner, I heated up some of the Maid-Rite meat that I meal prepped this weekend. If you guys want to see a video of that, I'll link it in the description box below. I also cooked up some French fries in our air fryer. Here's a look at the kids' plates, and then I am serving some fruit on the side. They just had their Maid-Rites along with some fries and some fruit, and then I also heated up some cheese sauce. Connor ate that with his fries, and then Adam actually likes cheese rites, which is basically just a Maid-Rite with cheese on top. So here's a look at his plate, and then I actually had mine as what's called like a Maid-Rite mash, which is just fries with the meat on top, cheese sauce, pickles, and ketchup. And definitely check out this meal prep video because this is a really, really delicious meat sandwich. Okay, so this is the last dinner that I'm going to show you guys, and this actually comes from the newest Skinny Taste cookbook, which I will link down below, but it is a beef stroganoff noodle soup that you make in the Instant Pot. It is totally delicious, and there are also directions in the cookbook to make it on the stovetop as well. So you'll start out with a pound of ground beef and just saute that in the Instant Pot on the saute mode, along with some salt and some pepper, and then I also sprinkled some dried minced onion in there as well. I've been using this in place of chopped onions because my kids aren't super thrilled about chopped onions in their food, so the minced onions seem to work fine. But once the beef is cooked up, you'll go ahead and add about 7.5 cups of water, some tomato paste, and I actually think I didn't really follow the directions because I think you're supposed to cook the tomato paste and the flour in with the meat while it's still hot before you stir in the water, but I totally screwed it up. Anyway, it worked out. It worked out just fine. It was fine. So I put the flour in there along with some pepper, and then the recipe also calls for some different spices, some chicken bouillon, and some Worcestershire sauce, and it's really good. Normally we're used to eating like the ground beef not Alfredo, the ground beef stroganoff, which my kids really like, but this was kind of a different take on it, and it was nice to have it as a soup because it was really, really cold this weekend. So I'm going to go ahead and cook that in the Instant Pot according to the directions in the cookbook. It's 25 minutes on high pressure. And then when that's done, you will stir in your dried egg noodles, just a half a package, and then cook it on high pressure again for 2 minutes. And then the soup will be completed. So once the pasta is done cooking, you can do a quick release, and then you're just going to take out a couple cups of the cooking liquid and put that into a bowl and whisk it with some sour cream. This is what makes it taste like beef stroganoff. If you guys have ever made beef stroganoff, you know that there's sour cream mixed in at the end, which kind of gives it that creamy feeling. So just put that back in the Instant Pot, stir it up really well, and then I went ahead and tasted it just to make sure that the broth tasted good and there weren't any seasonings that were needed. Here's a look at what it looks like cooked up. I served this with some veggies and dip on the side along with some rolls. Here's a look at it again in the bowl. This was really good, and I think I'll make it again. Even the kids liked it. They didn't necessarily like the soup part, but they did eat the noodles, which was fine with me, and the beef. So again, I served it with some bread and butter, and then I had some raw veggies with dip. So thanks you guys so much for watching this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up, and make sure you check out Leanne's channel in the description box below. I will see you in my next video. Bye.
Hey.